Good morning, everyone. I'd like to open this Polk County Board of Commissioners. It's June 28th. All commissioners are present. Their extra agenda is on the back table by the door for those wishing. First up is please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First up, the agenda is approval of minutes from June 21st.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous. Sheriff update, Sheriff Garten.
Like the background here. Yep.
Yeah,
I can truck, perhaps.
morning.
Right.
I just wanted to cover a couple topics, just to give you guys an update. Regards to hiring and staffing, on patrol, we are currently down 2 positions. We have open recruitments for all of them. We'll have a third opening, after Thursday, after a retirement. So the patrol side is, and those are all on the patrol side there. It's a lot more, it's challenging. We had 2 people show up for the testing that we had 2 weeks ago. So it is still continuing to be hard to find the right quality people for our office. So that's where we're at with that. We have one opening in the jail. That's just a recent, took another job in Marion County. So in the jail, we're doing relatively fine. That hasn't really been our main issue in terms of recruitment and retention. It's been more on the patrol side. So we're working on that. The other thing I just wanted to give you a heads up in terms of Senate Bill 111 and the intentional use of deadly physical force response plan. Next month, I'm hoping to have all the city councils done before I come back and present to you to get a kind of a final approval. Senate Bill 111 is the requirement that each county has a response plan in terms of how the framework of an officer involved or use of deadly force incident, not necessarily the investigation and how the investigation is supposed to happen, but more of basically just the rules of how the DA is involved, how the sheriff's involved, how the initiating agency are all involved, and then some of the requirements for reporting and that kind of thing. So to the Department of Justice, we're required to review it every year. Doesn't mean that we need to make changes, but we did make a change. We gave more specific details on what documents and what information needs to be reported to DOJ. It was kind of vague before. And so that's really the only change that we made in it, but I'll be bringing that to you next month, hopefully, and get that sent off. The other thing, really the main thing I really want to talk about was Senate Bill 48. And that's what's up there. And then there's kind of a flow chart in the back. Senate Bill 48 is a legislature approved, passed pretrial release program across the statewide. They're trying to make it similar throughout the entire state. What this does is essentially groups crimes into different categories. There's 3 different categories. 3 is the most serious. 1 is not as serious of crimes. Depending on the crime that someone gets arrested for and brought into jail, one of 3 things will happen. They'll either be held a mandatory hold based on their crime, a release on own recognizance, and then also a conditional release that has conditions related to that specific crime. Because those 2, the category 1 and category 2 crimes, are ones that would get released. Really, there's not a lot of leeway, what the state has passed. So there are a few hold factors that if there is a lower level crime, but there are these, there's about, 12 different hold factors. For instance, multiple charges over multiple incidents within 48 hours of arrest, any prior fail to appears convictions or fail to appears on that pending case. If the person has a warrant, if any threat of violence was made to anyone connected to the case, current or prior PV or contempt charges, if there's mental health concerns, unable to comprehend or participate in the release process, 3 prior convictions in the last 5 years for the same conduct, arrest or conviction of the same charge within the last 30 days, criminal trespass or property crimes with a history of those same types of crimes. If the victim is a family or household member, peace or probation officer or a child, if there's an active restraining order, or if they're currently on release from another case. So if they were the lowest level crime they get arrested for, and it has any one of those would automatically become a mandatory hold. So this starts July 1, and we have no say in the types of, in the categories of the crimes. We did have some input into the mandatory hold factors. So where it started to where it is now, it's much, much better. And I think a lot of this we're not going to see a huge difference in how things are going now, but there might be just those unique circumstances where somebody might get booked and then released based on these pretrial categories that are set by the court. They're not set by us at all, so we have to follow the law, which was passed. That's the quick version. The LIPSIC group has also heard this as well, and we're ready to go on July 1 for this, because it does put a lot of work actually back onto our corrections deputies. That's not funded at all by the court, but it's a requirement, and so we're going to do the best we can to make sure that we do and follow the law. So if you guys have any questions about Senate Bill 48 or anything else?
For these mandatory hold factors, I was at that LIPSIC meeting. I really appreciate your and Lyle's leadership and Judge Hill's on that committee. The mandatory hold factors that do allow some discretion, and generally are these more, do these provide more constraints or less for the holds, in your opinion? Or they just sort of define?
Well, the mandatory hold factors, I mean, this is not 100% of the time, but majority of the time it focuses on those people that are repeat offenders that have other mental health issues, or just that person that gets arrested continually for the same type of crime, that prevents them from being released. So it'll keep them in custody and gives us the jail staff the order from the court that says if they have any of these, they're automatically held until they see a judge, instead of being booked and released. So from where this started, there was very little hold factors when it started. There was hardly any. And now there's quite a few that I think will give us enough leeway to look at the person's history, as long as we get that information from the arresting agencies. And I've talked with the agencies that are around in terms of, hey, these are the things that we need to know about. If we don't know about them, some of them we might be able to find out on our own, but some of them we may not be able to find out at all on our own. So as long as we're getting that information from the agencies when they're brought in, then we can make these holds and override the release, mandatory release that might have existed.
Right. And then for the behavioral health, if that box is checked, the PCA box by an arresting officer, that would be a situation if somebody was in a mental health crisis where there may be some danger to themselves or others. Is that kind of generally how that would go, or would it be any?
Really and we've had this on our probable cause affidavits for the last several years, and it really is the trigger for our jail mental health folks to, if that box is checked, they go and talk to that person and start that evaluation.
Right.
And so that's not really going to change at all because it's already there, but it is anywhere from if we think they have, or if they've admitted to having some kind of mental health issue, severe or not severe, that box can be checked so that we can kind of monitor that person when they get into the facility.
Great, thanks. That's all I have.
I don't have anything. It's very complex, and it's just another more burden on you and all of your team. You have to learn this stuff and continue to maintain their activities and their work within the scope of another layer, right? So,
But so the court does have one person that is, I'm not sure their title, but she is maybe the coordinator of this program on the court side. They also hired I don't know if he's started yet, but if not very soon, is a release officer that during the day, daytime, Monday through Friday, will take some of this burden off of our deputies, but that ends at business hours and weekends because we run on 24/7, obviously. And so there's a 3.5 page document that it's like a checkbox for our deputies to go through so we don't miss anything. So that, yeah, I mean, it is going to take more time after hours, but otherwise we just be releasing people. So it takes not all that long per person, but it does take a little bit of time.
So I just want to commend you and Judge Hill and all of our police chiefs in Polk County working together and making this work. Because when Senate Bill 48 came out, it was pretty scary. It just eliminated more abilities for officers to do their job, what they're hired to do. And I think you guys come up with a great answer to that. And I'm drawing a blank. The officer that took Skip Miller's place for the city assemblies, George Burke. I ran to him yesterday. And for those of you who know, our jail is wide open. We are arresting people now and bringing them in for doing those quality of life crimes, which is great. It doesn't happen across the river yet and is really frustrating for our communities. So Sheriff Garten, thank you for that. And we appreciate your efforts and your team. So I'm excited to see where this goes in the future. And I'm not so scared as I was at first.
Yeah. One thing I didn't mention, that the reason Senate Bill 48 actually does, it eliminates the cash bail portion. So if somebody currently gets arrested and there's a bail of $1,000, they have to post $100 to be able to be released. So that gets rid of the cash bail part of it upon arrest. The judges after arraignment, after the first appearance, can set a bail amount that can be posted or not. So that's really the crux of the change on Senate Bill 48 is to eliminate the cash bail initially until first appearance.
so I have, if we're done with the Senate Bill 48 part, I do have some questions for the sheriff specific to other issues. Okay, so as I briefed you, I would ask you, and again, for the benefit of the audience today, the experiences that your patrol deputies are having with homeless encounters, and additionally, what is the experience like out there in the field today for mental health crisis encounters, just to get perspective for your side of the house on what happens there before we go into conversations that are more in depth about mental health aid.
Sure. So for instance, this week currently there's a CIT class going on over in Monmouth that's open to any agencies. We have, there's several probation officers that are over there.
CIT.
Crisis intervention team and our training. And so that is a 40-hour class that gives individual officers or deputies or other POs, that kind of thing, the ability to understand and how to interact better with someone so we don't escalate things when we don't need to. So we've been offering those classes and we're trying to get every single one of our staff through that in the jail and on patrol. Some of the other smaller agencies have been able to get all of their folks through that class over the last couple of years. So we have that as like a foundation. Then we also have mobile crisis, which is a mental health clinician along with a deputy that ride together. We have two teams. They're both managed by our office now. It used to be one with us, one with Salem, but we have them both now. So that is a team that goes out and responds to those types of incidents, or if there's a complaint about, you know, whether it's homeless or even someone that's not homeless that has a mental health issue that's in crisis, they're the ones that go to that scene and are able to really start the process of getting them out of crisis at the time. So that's been happening for several years. Those cases are increasing every year. I mean, it's almost 50% more than last year. This about 40% more. So we have that dedicated team that works 7 days a week. If, for instance, if our mobile crisis team isn't on, our deputies are still going to be able to go out there and talk to them because they have that basic understanding of what crisis intervention training is. And there's always after hours call outs that we can do to behavioral health that come out and they come to the scene. Sometimes they're able to stay there and we leave just depending on the circumstances. And then, so again, we still have that ability after hours to get services started. We don't deal with a lot of, I would call traditional homelessness where it's in the cities, just because we deal with stuff outside of the cities, and rural homelessness is different. It's not as visible. Sometimes it's, you know, they're homeless. I mean, they might be in an RV or something like that. And so we really try to work with them to get them, you know, cooperatively into the system to get help if that's something that we can do. Because not everybody, we can't force them into it unless there's a court order that allows us to do that. So, you know, those are the types of incidents that we deal with more of kind of the people that are sleeping in their cars and, you know, maybe couch surfing from time to time. And then there's also the nexus of drug use and where that mixes with mental health issues and causes more of an issue. If we find somebody that is a danger to themselves or others, we have two options. We can take them over to Salem Hospital, to the Salem Psych Unit. We can take them over to Salem again to PCC, which is a Psychiatric Crisis Center. So those are our two options that we have right now. And we can just literally pick that person up, take them over there, fill out a form, and they're there. If they don't meet that threshold, which that threshold has been essentially the same since I started, it doesn't evolve really. You know, we have pretty good success in getting cooperativeness out of the folks to be able to maybe take them over on their own instead of actually taking you know, against their will over to those places. So that's really the system we have right now to be able to work and get people help and deal with that. Does that answer your question?
So can you give me a sense from your experience, how many encounters a year you might have right now with transporting folks to PCC or Salem Hospital?
I don't have that number. You know, there's probably, Jennifer might have a better idea. I didn't pull those numbers. Yeah, I mean, a couple a week, maybe somewhere around there. Sometimes more, sometimes none. But that's about a good guess.
I just want to make certain that we have context from your professional perspective on how many times folks get picked up and are actually moved somewhere for a crisis intervention versus how many times we actually encounter them and manage that in the field.
Way more of that in the latter.
Right. Yeah. So again, I want to make certain that folks, as we're entering the conversation here about services, that folks have an understanding of the current work that's happening and in your world and all of the police department partners, what actually happens with most of the mental health, and some drug intervention crisis work. So
our mobile crisis team, it was a little over 500 calls, I believe, this in 2021. And yeah, maybe 10% of those end up over in Salem, somewhere around there. So.
And do you see anything in that model in PCC or Salem Hospital changing in the near future?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's still resources, tools that we're going to continue to use, and lots of other agencies around us continue to use those as well.
Yeah, every agency in Polk and Marion County use those. Yeah.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Sheriff. Next up is the Wells Fargo building, and I want to just do a little preface first. We're going to do things a little different today. And ask your respect, please be quiet and listen intently, because we are all going to be learning about the Wells Fargo building and what's going on today, as we are too. This is just getting started. There's lots of rumors and misconceptions out there. So hopefully you can listen and we'll get a lot better idea of what this building and crisis center is going to be, or community outreach. And today we have, and after they're through, we are going to have opportunities for community testimony. So you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. You'll come up to the front, you'll state your name, your address, and then give us your thing. Morgan, our county counsel, we run the clock. He'll show you when you have 30 seconds left, and be respectful of the time also when 3 minutes is up, because we have a lot of people today, which is pretty exciting. So hopefully we can learn a lot today and we can answer a lot of those questions. So now I'd like to open the floor for the Wells Fargo buildings for Mr. Greg Hansen and Jennifer Leaf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and the community. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Greg Hansen. I'm the county administrator. Been at the county for a little over 36 years, so I've seen a lot and dealt with a lot during my career. And about every 8-10 years, we have a community event like this, addressing questions of the public, and that probably my first experience was with the jail when we located over there. We had a number of citizens who had big concerns about locating a jail in downtown Dallas, even though the existing one was on the 3rd floor of this building. We listened, we tried to address their concerns, but in the end, obviously, we built the jail there by the vote of the people in that. And I don't believe we've really had any incidences that have caused the general public to have any concerns at the jail. Probably the next one I dealt with was Linden Lane. It was a group home where we had some high security type individuals that were going to be housed. Linden Lane is a cul-de-sac in, I guess it would be northwest part of Dallas. Had a large community involvement, almost to the level of protest of us citing that there. It eventually did get cited there. To my recollection, we've never had an incident at that facility. And it is still operating today, and probably 98% of the community don't even know it's there. Then a little later, we had community corrections relocated from the Academy building to Main Street, where the new school is going in. They lived there for 8 to 10 years, I believe. Had concerned citizens about that. But again, really had no incidences and that, and we've relocated community corrections since that time, a block away off of Main Street, but it's still in the community and that. So I try to give you that so you have a little perspective. When we tend to do things at Polk County, we try to do them right. We try to listen to the concerns of the community and address those concerns if at all possible. But we're also trying to conduct the business that we're dictated from the state that we need to provide. Are we always happy that we have to provide that service? Not always. I've gone on many rants in my office about dictations from the state and that. However, I think we've shown the public with our past track record that we do a really good job of trying to blend with the community and try to provide the services that are necessary or dictated without impacting the community. And if we seriously did, my guess is we would relook at it and figure out a different way to do things. But I know that's not probably going to, address all your concerns, and I'm sure a lot of your concerns are valid, or at least with the current information you have, they're valid. I do like when people show up at the meetings, but sometimes, we end up having to do things that the community just has to trust us, that we're going to do things right, and we're going to do our best to make it. We're a community partner. We're the county seat. We've been here for 150 years. We also live here. We don't want things to go bad for any community. We're located in Monmouth and Independence. We're located in West Salem. And that's not our goal, is to be not a good community partner. The goal is always for us to be a good community partner. So with that, I'll turn it more into the specifics that Jennifer can talk about to the board, and address maybe some misconceptions or misinformation that's out there. So I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, which you know, from Health Services. I was made aware of the information that was on the Dallas Chamber website more recently, and I read it with interest, and I thought, based on the information that has been out there, I can understand why this would show like this, which is very frightening when you look at it. And I guess what I want to do most is explain what it is that we currently do and what changes might happen if we move to Wells Fargo. I think that our programs are really complex. I have the difficult programs at our agency, the ones that are highly visible, the ones where law enforcement's involved at times, and the ones where our crisis team responds. And our crisis team is excellent. They go to the local disaster. We were at the Goodwill shooting. We were at the fires, things like that, where we support our community as well. So as a community member myself, I live in Polk County. One of my kids was born here. I have the same concerns always. And so part of my role is to make sure we don't turn into Salem. We don't turn into Portland. Those places right now, those places are scary places. And my parents live in Salem. They're 85. And I'm like, don't go to Fred Meyer, for goodness sakes, go to this one if you have to, because things are scary. But what I see in the community, especially Polk, is the collaboration amongst all our community partners to find out solutions to problems. And so when we have problems, I can call the commissioners, I can call the sheriff, I can call corrections, I can call law enforcement chief, I can call whoever and say, hey, this is a situation, how do we resolve it? And we try to do that. I think what I would like to say is that just like at our current facility, the new facility is not a homeless shelter. And it's not a place where we freely hand out resources to just anybody who comes by. We don't provide clothing to people who drop in. We won't serve meals. We don't allow camping. We don't tolerate loitering or disruptive or destructive behavior. We resolve those things. And we try to resolve them with our counselors the best we can. If it has to go to a law enforcement level, it may sometimes, but we usually try to resolve those with the counselors, and we're very successful. So I think what you will see is very similar to what you see now, probably with some improvement. The services that we talk about, which we have are, and I did not bring my list, and I'm happy to meet with any of you and go into detail about our programs and how they work, what we do, how they're structured, what our numbers are, because I think sometimes we have this perception that there's 50 people guilty but insane coming out of the jail. And we've had 2 people over the last several years. So it's not, we don't have very ultra high numbers with a lot of the programs that we do. However, they are justice involved programs, and for the most part. I would say our crisis team is primarily not justice involved. We go out with as a co-responder with Polk County Sheriff. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Polk County Sheriff's Office. We have community crisis workers who go out into the community every day to meet with people, to find out what their challenges are, people who are afraid to come to our building. We try to engage them in treatment and we try to support them and we try to get them stabilized on medication when it's possible and do all the things to make our community a safer place. I think with the Wells Fargo building, all of that is still under development, and other than having a location, my team has been short-staffed. During COVID, my team worked on site. A lot of folks worked at home, but my team did not. They responded to the community need, to the client needs, and were present. So, but our academy building is small and it's not conducive to the type of business that our folks need to do. My team is largely community-based. So they go out into the community and they come in to do paperwork. We do have a few clients come in, but that's not primary. I would say probably between 75 and 85% of their work is done out in the field. And so that can be crisis, that can be our assertive community treatment. When we have the programs like jail mental health, we have a counselor who's over there, or our team goes over there. Our team goes to the state hospital to meet with individuals. They go to Salem Health to meet with individuals. So they're out in the community, they're at residential treatment homes, providing those services, and then they come in to coordinate with each other. A lot of clients weave through both sides of, both multiple programs sometimes. And so my team needs to be able to talk about, hey, so-and-so came in this way, what's going on over here? How can we best help, facilitate this? Are they stable? Do we have a stable place for them? Are they on their medication? And trying to work with that to reduce the destabilization that some people experience from their symptoms of mental health. So one of the primary intentions of locating services at Wells Fargo building was because we're cramped. We are shoulder to shoulder in there, just cramped in this little area without room to meet and spread out and talk and have a hub to work from. It would be nice, our after hours people work from home. And so if we had after hours had the availability to be in our building 24/7, which is a state mandate that we provide all services 24/7. And I will be clear that we do provide them 24/7 now. We just don't have them located in a site right now. So we do provide 24/7. We get calls from the hotline, law enforcement, Western Oregon University, West Valley Hospital, and we respond to those calls in person on site 24/7. So we already are doing those services. I think, I would like the opportunity to maybe meet with you in a different setting to have more time to maybe explain some of the workflows of our program so there's a better understanding that if we have a client who's going through the state hospital, for example, there's a lot of coordination with the state hospital. The court might be involved in that. With civil commitments, the client may never come into our office. Somebody brings a concern, or Salem Health is notified us of that. We respond there, we go to court, they order a commitment, and then we work on the commitment and location of that, which is often the state hospital or some other facility. State hospital's kind of jammed right now, but so we respond there and then we help them get settled. So they don't come into our office. Our people are out there serving them. We have laptops. Some of our staff don't even have a desktop computer. They work on laptops a lot. But the goal there is to actually provide more space just because of how busy things are. I think the secondary goal is to be able to provide a crisis stabilization or just stabilization center, which means our people who are in crisis can come in. If they need a place to potentially recline, there's a recliner, they can sit there in a calm, peaceful place and kind of de-escalate and have access to our counselors. And then they move on with support. We help transfer them to other services at our outpatient services, or help them locate resources or what they need. I guess, like I said, I think my team works really hard so that we don't have what I'm seeing people are worried about. They work really hard to prevent that. And I talk a lot about my team because they're the people who do all the work. They go out in the community, they go locate people, they find out what's going on, how can they help, where are they, are they stable, are they not? But I think without people doing the work, you would see quite a bit of a different situation. I think you would see more of what you're worried about, and we're able to mitigate that. We work, like I said, we work close with community partners. We work with DHS, we work with the schools, we work with the hospitals, we work with the university. We work with everybody to try to coordinate services and support so that we do not have situations that are out of control. Do you have any more specific questions? So for us, I don't see a lot of difference. I think the concerns are always valid. There's always situations that will arise. We will do our best to resolve those situations. My phone number is, I brought my cards for anybody who wants to give me a call to talk about programs or the things that we do, or come for a tour. I mean, I would be happy to have them meet with staff, anything like that, so that we can show you the work that we are doing. The work is complex. There's a huge amount of state requirements, rules, tracking, data, everything that we're obligated to do. It's very administratively heavy burden on staff to do these things, but I would be happy to show those workflows, what it looks like now, and maybe just alleviate some of the fears or some of the concerns that people have. I think that's probably the best way. I'm more than happy to come to any meetings to talk about and go more in depth to individual programs or concerns about individual programs. But I'm happy to help in any way I can to share. My goal is to keep Dallas pretty, and I mean, it's a cool town. I love it here. So that's why we moved to Polk County. But that's why I worked here for 11 years, because I just really like it here. And I value what we have. I value our downtown community and spirit, and the whole county, actually. So that, I guess that's my spiel right now, the best I can say. And just know my door's open. So anybody, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I guess to help you, excuse me, to help you describe the scenario that we're looking at and why we chose to buy another building was, again, for the purpose of relocating staff teams who are very cramped and scattered.
And scattered,
And
yes,
scattered.
yeah.
Some folks, like mobile crisis, don't have a space at all.
That's correct.
Is that right? To
Yeah.
do their work and reporting, et cetera. So I want to make certain that I help you in that regard, to make certain we understand that this wasn't an acquisition of property looking to build some new institution.
Right.
It's basically to continue the services that we're doing, that we're providing, and be able to appropriately accommodate new state mandates that have come down along with dollars to provide additional services, which I personally would have to say I support, because again, we listen to the sheriff and all of his peers in policing out there talk about, we need more tools. We need more tools constantly. And a majority of their challenges out there are mental health and drug crisis issues. And so unfortunately, that's the state of our nation. That's the state of our country. And that's why dollars are being so heavily appropriated towards this kind of work. The way you have to deliver them, I may personally argue about how some of those things get done across the state and across the nation, but I understand the purpose for it. So I just want to make certain that I put my personal context of why we're seeking another building in order to make this happen.
We haven't been able to hire some of the people that we do need, that we do have funding for, because we have no place to put them. I mean, we just don't. And so if you don't, that's part of the reason. But you're right, we are spread out. We're in West Salem, we're in Monmouth, we're here, we're mobile, and a lot of my people don't have a place. They have a drop-in spot that they can sit. They don't have a place to be able to conduct their full business as. But yes, that's.
So I think the other thing that's important here to talk about is that, again, we have a bullet points, talking points memo out there that lists essentially everything
Right.
that your department and your team has to do.
Mhm.
And that may be housed there, doesn't necessarily mean that those services happen there.
Correct.
And in fact, in a lot of cases, they don't happen
Spaces.
in a building.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to make certain the folks know that list of services or list of needs are on that document to show these are all the things under your purview that happen. And they may be housed there as a means of an office space or staff needs specifically.
That's largely, but we do have clients who come in. I mean, we're not going to say that we have nobody. We do have clients that come in, but more often than not, they don't. So if they're stabilized, we do the crisis work and the stabilization. And then once that happens, when they engage in services, they'll be over in our outpatient setting, getting the services, therapy, groups, things like that. My team's short-term stabilization largely, or services provided in the community. So, but yeah.
Stop there.
I appreciate all this information, Jennifer. I know you've been working furiously to make sense of all these funding streams coming from the state. And really to address the mental health crisis and addiction crisis that we're seeing to help mitigate those factors. And also really appreciate the Sheriff's Office partnership with our behavioral health department and other departments to have a cohesive response to folks in crisis. I'm just curious, from service as a service, I'm just curious how a public member might engage with the crisis team, or just thinking an example. I mean, there've been examples in my community where we've seen somebody clearly in the mental health distress. Who do you call? You call the sheriff's department, you call 911. There doesn't seem to be a crime being committed, but there's concern. What would a public member do to sort of engage the service, or if there's a child that's in a crisis?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a crisis hotline that you can call, and that's available. There's two numbers. One's that we serve. One number is for our daytime crisis staff, so that can be called at our Polk County Health Services. And then the other is after hours crisis. And all people need to do is call that number, which that brings up a good point. In July 16th, I think, the nation is coming out with a number 988, which is the mental health 911. So anytime there's a challenge or a mental health challenge, whether it's suicidal ideation, just distress, and individuals call that number, those calls, the hotline folks try to resolve those calls. And they said that they can usually resolve between 85 and 95% of the calls. But of those that they cannot, what they will be doing is reaching out to all the counties and requesting for some sort of mobile dispatch to go, if it's safe, obviously, to go out and to provide services at those locations, whether it's at their home or business, et cetera. And so my team will do that. And we do that now, but it'll be more targeted, I would say, after this comes out and we figure out everybody figures out what their role is and how to do that. I know 911 will be coordinating with 988. So if they get calls that are primarily mental health, law enforcement doesn't have to respond if they're not a danger. They just come directly to our crisis team, and then we go out and respond.
I'm wondering if you could also describe a scenario in which there might be a law enforcement element where the individual or individuals may need to be contained in a more secure setting, where this crisis stabilization, either in the field or the few that do come in, where that wouldn't be maybe a proper solution, where it might be sort of an escalator, more acute
Yeah, that's more
situation.
cute.
I know there are gaps in our services there as a region, but just curious if you could think of a scenario in which, or a type of scenario in which we might want to escalate that to either hospital, jail, I don't know.
Right. We do have individuals whose symptoms they're at risk of harming themselves or others. And so in those cases, we always call in law enforcement. And my team does what's called a director's custody is what it is. And so that means we have the power to involuntarily hospitalize people. We don't transport people that need to be involuntarily hospitalized. We get support from the mobile crisis team or law enforcement, depending on any of the law enforcement agencies. And so we're very, very keen, and everyone is trained. If this doesn't feel safe and you need to call 911 for support, do it. Just do that. Nobody ever has to think, well, maybe I shouldn't call. They can call. But a lot of times I feel like our team is really gifted, and they just are able to listen, to talk, and just really calm things down. Especially some of our folks who've lived here in this community and know a lot of people, they really have the ability to do that. We also respond to schools when there's been a suicide. The team goes out there, provides support to the school, to the families. We do outreach into the community. So those are some of the things that we do as well. Or we have individuals that are just in distress and they need help and they don't know where to go. The crisis is not 100% law enforcement involved. That's probably the program that has almost the least in a way. The bulk of our folks who call or come in are not coming in crisis, are not coming in through law enforcement. So, yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for putting together this presentation. And as you said, this is the start of a conversation and we're going to learn more as things progress. And that same goes for the community members. We are always available if you'd like to meet to discuss. Because we're learning as we go as well. Appreciate your engagement.
And Jennifer, I just commend you on getting so much done so fast. The Measure 110, this is being funded from the marijuana tax bill, Measure 110 that we voted and passed, making drugs illegal and putting money towards addiction, therapy, mental health. And when we get these, we get orders. You have 60 days to get this going. It is ridiculous. I mean, it's almost impossible to make happen within the timeframes that they give us mandated from the state. So we are trying to do our best. And one of the challenges that I had with an individual in the community was location. Why Wells Fargo? And I just, if you could touch base, I know you work with community corrections and the sheriff's department and the courts and the academy building also. So the Wells Fargo was just centered right there with all of this. So it's within walking distance. Most of these people that we are addressing, when they do come in, they don't have transportation. They're on foot. So that was one of the reasons, and the Wells Fargo came open at the same time that we are starting to get mandates for finding and putting a position in. So that's what we started looking at. So that's where we're at today. It's not set in stone, and we'll all get you from you. So Jennifer, you and I'd like to, Noah Carroll's the head of our behavioral health is here as well. I hope you two can stick around for a few minutes and answer any questions that we may not be able to answer while we have the community. And thank you very much.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
So I do have one more before you go. So again, based on briefings that we've already had, again, I'm saying this for the benefit of people who have concerns. Again, my vision of this property, and I don't care whether it's Wells Fargo, Academy, wherever we are, my vision is that, and I'd like to be able to state to anybody, look them straight in the eye and say, you're not hardly going to know we're here as a neighbor. And I want us to be able to continue to say that to people. Is that your vision?
I think so. We have our clients. It's not a place like Arches where you drop in for services. We have a pretty set client caseload that comes in, or our community members that call in crisis. I think if you look at the academy as an example, do we have things that pop up? Sure, but we try to resolve them really quickly and with everybody's support. And we always do that or be open to that. The academy is pretty calm most of the time. There's not a lot going around. Every now and then we've had a few things come up, but I think they've been resolved fairly quickly and appropriately. So I think, again, we do a lot of good work, whereas if we're located centrally, our team will walk over to the jail when somebody's released. And rather than then just going right out to buy drugs or whatever, we engage them in services and help them get to where they need to, transitioning out. And those are the types of things that are preventative. That's what helps people be engaged, because often somebody will get out of jail and then they just like, I don't want to go over there. And they get lost between the academy and our place. But now that we have peer support specialists who go over and meet with them and help them figure out, they've been working on a plan, but help them figure out a plan and get to where they need to go to start stabilizing their life in the community. So that location is great because we do work closely with community corrections. We do work with the jail and we do work with sheriff's department. Yeah.
So some of the concerns in the community are about 24/7 services. And what does that look like after 5 o'clock? in the evening from your point of view?
That's something that has to be planned or transitioned. First of all, it's a huge staffing issue. So how do we staff something like that? I think in the short term, what it looks like is it looks like it does now. People call our after hours hotline, they get a crisis worker, and those are the services that are 24/7, is the crisis services. They get a crisis worker, and then the crisis worker responds into the community. And I think one of the goals would be able to have a location there where they could do telehealth or operate like a hub that they can operate from. So that would be where we would start. And this is a long time and it takes a lot of planning. It's just like Commissioner Mordhorst said, we're asked to put together, here's your requirements 24/7 and do all these things. And we have to put it together in 30 days. That's a tremendous amount of work thinking those details through. So we don't get there, we get the overview, but then implementation and planning will take a lot longer. There's a lot of flexibility there. We can look at challenges that might arise. We can listen to people's feedback and then help that direct some of the programming we do. So I think that's the best way. I don't think right now there's this huge vision of, yep, we're all staffed up. We're all here waiting for people to come in, because it won't work that way. It just doesn't work that way now. So
Are these crisis workers who are working after hours working from home currently?
currently they work from home, and
So this would
currently,
provide a central
Yeah.
space connected to other resources if they need it.
yes, and we have contractors, they work at home, and we also have a lot of our staff put in a lot of extra hours doing that kind of work. So their staff who are familiar with our agency, it would be nice for them not to have to drive from Turner to come over, but be located here. And so just some things like that. But I don't see it with a big open door and a flashing sign, come in now. I just see as people are in need, and then we'll work through the concerns and we'll work through details and figure out how to make it work for everybody. Whether it's at Wells Fargo or wherever, we want people to feel safe and feel like we're an asset to the community, not a detriment, that we're actually helping folks. So that's my hope.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so now we'll have public comment. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Come up, just state your name and address, and then direct the board. Morgan will be running the clock. He'll notify you when you have 30 seconds left. So then we'll wrap it up at 3 minutes. So please be respectful of the time. And who would like to come up first? Come on.
Morning, Jackie Lawson. I live in Texas, but I also live here in Dallas, and I have a business downtown Dallas. My residence here in Dallas is 569 Southeast Walnut Avenue. Being a former Dallas City Councilor, I know something is really big when lots of people speak out against it and come to tell leadership about their opinions about it publicly. And noticing that we have standing room only, we believe this is a big deal. In just a couple of days, so many people have been queried on this idea, and I have not heard one person support this. In fact, it has been a resounding no. I understand that services are needed. We have a group home that resides across the street from my house. Sometimes awkward and annoying, but never have we said not in my front yard. There is no one that will say that we don't need this to provide services, because we know they're desperately needed. And, but on this one here, the location is a no, not in my front yard. My business is right downtown. And nobody is criticizing your team for the services they're providing. It has nothing to do with that. What we are upset about is where you're thinking about putting this. Purchasing a piece of property to provide services you already provide just to satisfy the legislature is not being good stewards of this tax dollars that we work so hard to provide and to give to you annually. If you must use the dollars, enhance the services in the places you already do so. Expand your offices, move your offices around at the Academy building. You have a whole downstairs gym that hardly ever is used, and that is a lot of floor space. You can hire additional staff, but do so at the current locations they're already being provided at. There are other options. You could do a private and public partnership with Salem Health at the eastern side of the hospital in the large building that's across the street. The hospital's open 24/7. Then you'd have the medical access you need right away. You can partner with Marion County in West Salem, where there's an even larger issue and you have more people, and doubling your money together, you could have better services. And why recreate the wheel? I see nothing in House Bill 2714 that states that the need to purchase new realty property for carrying out this mandate. This passed the legislature and was signed last year in September. So you've been working on this and aware of it for months, completely non-transparently with zero public input up until now. In fact, an additional lack of integrity concern for me was when I heard that Mr. Pope was more concerned about how a citizen found out about it. Placing such a welcome mat will leave the light on at the gateway to the downtown of Dallas is not only thoughtless, it's destructive. City of Dallas has spent multiple thousands of dollars on beautifying the downtown, making it attractive for citizens, but also appealing to new businesses. We are barely crawling out of COVID, where we got only lip service for help, and now being crushed by inflation with all these left-leaning agendas because the Fed just keeps printing money. Please don't put this in Wells Fargo. It's the gateway to our beautiful downtown.
Next. Anyone else?
My name is Amy Sledge. I own Life Balance Yoga right here on Court Street. I live in Falls City, but I own a business here. I've been teaching yoga downtown for about 11 years, and I've seen firsthand a little escalation in some of the characters that I'm seeing come downtown. I now have to lock my door during my studio sessions. I have to put curtains up. I think that will only increase with this location because it's centrally located. I think that over a resounding thing from the community about this is that we would not have this problem if it was an art gallery or a youth center or something else downtown that is, you know, so visible and such a big part of downtown. So I just think that there could be a better spot and that Wells Fargo could be utilized for something more enriching to the community. So I have. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Kim Fitzgerald. I'm a Dallas resident, 490 Southeast Fur Villa. And I'm going to finish up what Jackie was saying because she ran out of time. So I'll use my time to finish it up. And I'll start where she left off. I understand that the design plan wasn't even submitted to the City of Dallas yet for zoning law review, where it would have a school right across the street from it. This being said, was it because you were trying to hide it and then plan to put all your weight down on making it pass despite the laws? Or were you just hiding it until after the election where you knew this could jeopardize your positions from the voters? And what happens if it does actually pass the review process? Then the county owns yet another property in the downtown area. The downtown should not be turn one building at a time into government offices and services. It is sucking the lifeblood out of businesses and quality of life downtown. Taking another property from private to government takes it off the tax rolls, which has multiple repercussions. Urban renewal dollars take a hit and taxpayers end up paying more for upkeep of yet more real estate. We do not want this. Having something like this in our downtown not only makes businesses not want to be there, but it is also a hazard to residents. And yes, there are many in the upper floor apartments, but also to anyone who actually wants to shop or enjoy entertainment there, because they will no longer feel safe to do so. And that's already, by the way, how citizens feel sometimes walking downtown. It is a disaster waiting to happen. Having a welcome mat 24/7 to criminals, homeless, mentally incapacitated, where they would also be loitering in parking lots and only draws more from other areas. We already have a DA that lacks the backbone of prosecuting criminals. Crime has been decriminalized, and Kate Brown has allowed many to leave incarceration. This should not be the Band-Aid that we all further pay more for because of these missteps. Just picture in your mind in downtown Salem, this has even more layers to it than offers. Therefore, maybe
30 seconds.
something was crossed out. Therefore, is no way imaginable that it would be contained. This puts an even further burden on the City of Dallas Police Department that already stretched thin. Please just do not move forward on purchasing the Wells Fargo location. Thank you.
Good morning, Kevin Conzo, 8490 Rickreall Road in Rickreall. Also a business owner at 119 Southwest Court Street, Kevin's Daily Bread. There's a lot of perception of what this building would actually house. You know, when I walked in the room, I thought it was going to be like a overnight facility or of some sort. But one of the points that was brought up by Jackie was that this is the gateway to our downtown. I'm also a voting board member of the Downtown Dallas Association, and I can't speak for all of them because we haven't had a chance. Why am I so worked up? We haven't had a chance to really talk and discuss about this, but we're trying to do a lot to make downtown a place for people to come to, like what you guys did with the front and the courthouse, all the new lawn and stuff. We want to attract people, and I just don't think that this building is the right location for this facility.
So my name is Sherry Jacobson. I am a longtime resident of this town. I live at 456 Northwest Reed Lane here in Dallas. I have over 100 years of family in this town and represent many, many of them here today. On another chord, I represent a gentleman named Ben James, Dr. Ben James, and his wife, Alyssa James. They are currently the dentists for both regular dentistry and pediatric dentistry in this town. Possibly some of you have him as a dentist. He is a fabulous man, fabulous businessman. They recently revamped, totally spent over $1 million, possibly $2 million in revamping the building on the corner of Washington and Jefferson. Their building has expanded, their business has expanded so much that they are outside their walls. They cannot contain everybody that needs their services. Their services, especially the pediatric side, is one of the only ones in the state that is helping young children with their pediatric dentistry needs. They have been trying to purchase one of the banks in this town for months. They are now, as of a few days ago, able to purchase the Wells Fargo building and will, as soon as you concede and walk away from this project, they will put their offer in. The reason it has not happened until now is because their bookkeeper during COVID walked away from their 7 different businesses that they have. The lender is trying to get their, I'm sorry, needing to calm myself down here. Their lender has required them to give them certain documentation, which they spent months trying to get together and finally have been fully approved to write an offer that I'm sure will be accepted. They are wanting to do that today, if you will concede. As a city person here, that cares very deeply about my grandchildren and my children and everybody behind and going forward. And I'm sure most of the people sitting in this room, this is not what we want on Main Street. You have to ask yourself, what is Main Street for? Main Street is for the services for the many, not the few. We need what this Jennifer is offering. We need it so badly, but not in the Wells Fargo building. We need services. A dentist across the street from a school, maybe even, I don't know, other services that could be brought into that building. Maybe it's not him, but it certainly is not what is being offered here today. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Good morning. My name is Sarah Orr. I am a realtor at HomeSmart Realty Group in downtown Dallas. My address is 392 Southeast Ironwood Avenue in Dallas, Oregon. We are spending far too much time trying to advocate for services we all agree are needed. We need to take the conversation away from if there is a need for this facility. Rather, the conversation needs to move to where is the safest and most viable location to meet the needs of all citizens. The information circulating in the community was provided directly to me by the county, and it is the only information used to form a petition. From this information, I, along with a fellow downtown business member, met with multiple downtown businesses who voiced a sentiment that is not hidden if one simply asks. I hold with me 3 pages of wet signatures and over 140 online signatures just in the last few days of community and business members that say this is not the right location for this facility. As a downtown business owner, I can tell you the voices of the business community have been and are currently being ignored. The lack of services for individuals releasing from the jail left to loiter downtown businesses is currently being ignored. The cries of the businesses with crimes being committed by individuals deemed mentally incompetent to understand their crime is currently being ignored. My business is one of them. The voice of the citizens are pleading with you. We cannot control what others do. Despite our greatest efforts, the only person that can control change is an individual themselves. I'm concerned because what Mr. Hansen shared earlier today was the voice of the citizens has meant nothing in the past when it comes to the county continuing to do what they want, where they want, and when they want. Please, please, I beg you, listen to the voice of the citizens. This is not a conversation about if these services are needed. It is about where they are located. I beg you, please listen to us all. Open the conversation further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Sam Moore, 392 Southeast Ironwood. That's my wife. We own the building directly adjacent to the south of the proposed site, the HomeSmart building at 662 Main. First, I want to state that our concerns are not at a professional representation level. We met with Commissioner Polk last week, and despite my inability to keep my frustrations down, he was very professional, helped us to understand what's at stake here. Like Sarah just said, we are certainly for this sort of service. What we are against is the funnel that it will create in our backyard, respectfully, Mr. Pope. These services definitely should be provided, and as you've stated, are mandated at the state legislature level. But I'm just wanting to represent these business owners here and myself and say that the place to do it is not at the entry to downtown Dallas. This is not an affront on our sheriff or his staff, our local law enforcement. They know me by name there. We have cameras at our building. The things that we see on a daily basis are disgusting. I had no idea before we bought that building what went on at night in our small town here. The cameras tell me that. I've got it on my phone, dozens and dozens and dozens of different encounters with these people that no doubt will now be funneled 50 feet from our front door. And I just want to put my voice and my wife's voice out that we are wholeheartedly against the location chosen for this particular service. Thank you.
Sam.
Hi, my name is Susan Jones. I live 292 Southeast Oak Street, 5 houses away from this location. I have gone to these business owners, especially the dance studio, the karate center. I have witnessed unsafe conditions for children going and coming to these locations, and they're concerned for safety. I found pills all over the ground, alcohol, bottles of urine, feces, unstable people that I have called on multiple times and being told that it absolutely, there's nothing they can do. This morning coming here, one of the people who's living at the senior citizen right out in front of me got up, threw his stuff all over and went to the bathroom as I'm driving by. I have called multiple times on him. He's showing up at my work, watching me mow the lawn to my church every week. I have done everything. I'm concerned. I don't feel safe in my home anymore. And take walks around this town and go to the little cubby holes and see what you can see. It's not safe. And I just, please consider us who have worked hard to live in this community, to be a part of it. I am very concerned about the safety that is, you know, me walking, just trying to walk my dog in the evening. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
All right. My name's Monica Robertson. I live out on Oakdale Road. I've lived in Dallas for about 5 years. Fled from Salem for various reasons, and I'm kind of tired of running from the problems because they're growing. And so everyone agrees that we need to deal with it. Absolutely. My 6-year-old is enrolled at the Dallas Community School. And so I want you to see someone who has a kid there. And life's not a guarantee, but you can mitigate risk. And this is a huge risk, being put right next to where my kid's going to go to school. And I think it's unconscionable, especially after hearing that you have a different buyer. The services are needed. They are growing. I'm sorry, but I don't trust you when you say that they can provide a set of services, but don't worry, they won't. There are already other buildings that can be used and retrofitted. I know you got money from the legislature. I don't know if it's general fund or if it's capital renewal or what it is. I do know that there is a long process that must be followed, and perhaps this is just the beginning stages of gathering information. But there's got to be at least some sort of a capital renewal advisory board. There's got to be some sort of bid process. There's got to be some sort of estimates. There has to be timelines. I work in facilities, so I know all of these things, especially I'm in charge of ARPA funds right now. And I know that there is a lot of hoops to jump through. I know there's a lot of constraints, and I know that there are a lot of ways to get around those things. So you say you have, 2 months to
30
start.
seconds.
I don't think, without having read it, I don't know if that is something that is truthful. Again, I ask that this not be the location because my kid is right there. And there are other options, probably cheaper. So thank you.
So we have a Zoom attendee. Is there anyone here that would like to address this?
Penny Cochran. I reside in Monmouth, Oregon, but I manage WAFED, which is right across the street. So I was the person that went around with Sarah the other day, and I was really surprised at the comments from the local businesses. I do take offense about rumors because we did take directly the document provided by Mr. Polk, shared that with our business owners. All that verbiage is in there. We did not make anything up. We did not change anything. Okay. We do all agree services are needed. That is not the location to take a viable building that we could bring business in that would stimulate our local economy and make it into a community building that the county owns. It's not bringing anything in. Recently, we had madlocks installed on our doors. We've had issues. Numerous businesses have had issues. It is a huge concern. I understand we do have those services all through the county. The Academy building, I've been told by Brent, a huge portion of those people will be moving out when the new building is done in the Monmouth Independence area. There's some space for you. It's right there. I'm a bank, I have money. You have someone going to drug court that has ongoing criminal activity going on. Gosh, let's pop over here on a Friday night with limited staff in the middle of winter when it's dark. That's a huge safety concern for my employees. If I had a child, they would not be walking to Dutch Brothers. They would not be walking to Dairy Queen. My children are grown. I live out of the I don't live in town, but I have lived my life in this town since I was a child. Please, there are other options. This is not the option that best suits our needs. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Nicole? Okay. The person on Zoom, floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Denise Swanson. I live at 332 Southeast Oak Street in downtown Dallas. I am testifying in support of the use of the Wells Fargo building and the ability for our county to better serve people with mental health services in our community. I work for another county in a field that's directly related to this work, so I've directly seen the benefits of this type of facility. It is for office space. It is for having folks receive services. It's like any dental or doctor's office in our downtown. To characterize it as a place that will bring unsavory people or things to our downtown area simply is not true. 1 in 5 people experience mental health issues in our country. Youth in Oregon are committing suicide at much higher rates than the rest of the country. These people are not criminals. They're our friends, they're our family, they're our neighbors. We need to remove the stigma of those experiencing mental health issues and treat them with compassion and kindness. Our current system is overloaded due to inadequate funding and lack of workforce. The pandemic has only exacerbated these issues. The state is making a historic investment of $1.5 million in recognition of this need. And the addition of this facility will help our ability to take care of our community members. And finally, as Administrator Hansen noted, Dallas is the county seat. Our downtown is already housing mental health services in the Academy building. We already have the jail in downtown. We have the courthouse in downtown. I live right next door to the offices for our domestic violence shelter. Our county is conducting this type of business in the county seat in our downtown. When I purchased my house almost 20 years ago, I was aware of this, as are all of those who live in the downtown and have businesses there. So therefore, the argument that the new location is going to be a blight on downtown simply does not hold water. The expansion of mental health services will help make our community better and safer. The things that people are talking about today, these are the types of services that will help get people off the streets. As a downtown resident, I support these services being in downtown with the rest of our services. And I hope that my friends and neighbors will do some research and find out and look at other facilities like this around the state where they also exist and find out they are not places for unsavory people. They belong in the downtown and our people need to be served. Thank you.
You want to come up?
Sure. Rachel Phelps, live in Monmouth, Oregon. I own Tater's Cafe and I used to own Press Coffee and Wine Bar downtown. So I've been doing business in downtown for 11 years now. I'm kind of shocked that we're even here, honestly. I would love to know whose brainchild this was to even consider bringing this type of facility downtown on the first building that you see on the left-hand side as you go through the straight stretch. I don't know who did it. Probably nobody wants to fess up to it, or maybe you do, but it is the worst idea I have ever heard. Nobody here is denying that we need these services. We need them badly. I know firsthand as a business owner, and Hanson, you mentioned that we don't have the impact of the jail, or there's never been any sort of incidences related to that. Just so you know, and you wouldn't know this because how would you? I get people on the daily that get released that come down and ask for bus vouchers or to use my bathroom at Tater's or for water or et cetera, et cetera. So when you have these services down there, they do run into the businesses, especially restaurants, and it happened at Press too, and they want more services and they don't know where to go and what to do. So the jail downtown does have an effect on that. This will be the same. And if you build it, they will come. They will come from all over, and they're busting at the seams or doing remote work there. If you give them a nice safe spot, that recliner to sit on, once you get full, they'll be waiting around for that recliner to sit on. I've done it. I've made that mistake. I've offered people out of kindness and was warned not to. Yeah, come on in, sure, sit down, have a seat in the back patio, get yourself on your feet. And what happens is they loiter and then they tell all your friends it's a safe spot. And then pretty soon you have everybody and their brother who's, you know, having a crisis right there. That's not what we want downtown. We've worked really, really, really hard. Downtown Association, the people that live here, the citizens, we want it to be a great spot. We want it to be a community-oriented downtown where you can feel safe, where you can walk around. That is not the building for it at all. I'm shocked. When I heard that that is what was going to happen, I'm like, I guess they've just thrown in the towel and given up on Dallas then. I mean, is there no spot in West Salem? Is there no spot that's not on somebody's main street? Main streets are dying across the country. We are so lucky that we have a downtown that we can beautify and make better. And we can put boutiques and restaurants and dining and shopping there. And to think that you want to put another government-run facility as the first thing you see when you're driving into our small town is honestly pathetic.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, now let's close the public comment this time. Thank you. Oh, we have one more. Oh, come on up. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was hiding back there.
That's all good. It's all good.
My name is Rita Grady. I live at 12290 Orrs Corner Road. And I work in Dallas and work for the entire county. I work in affordable housing. And I house a lot of these folks. I've been doing this work 47 years. I almost hate to admit it. And my position and the work that I do in Polk County was actually started in 1975 by the Board of Commissioners. And so I feel very connected to Polk County and what our county is doing. as well as the city of Dallas, and the other cities. I would want to say that we have been providing affordable housing, building affordable housing for probably, I don't know, 35 years or so. And we have housing for homeless, housing for people with addictions, housing for people with mental health. And we have another 2.5 acres in our community here that we plan to develop out and build an additional 100 units on that property. And always do we incorporate units that can be used by persons with a mental illness or addictions, and have appreciated the partnership with Polk County Mental Health. Currently, we have a contract with Polk County, and that contract is a planning grant to address just these kinds of issues. And we've been working very hard to get as much information as we can about services on the ground and what is needed. I was sort of taken back when I heard secondhand that the Wells Fargo building was going to be used for this purpose. I am fully in favor of increasing services. I know how much money is coming down the pipeline to the county, to the nonprofits for housing. I know the critical need we have. And so I also know that coming up in the future, House Bill 3115, which really forces communities and local governments
30 seconds.
to rewrite local rules to allow Oregonians to sit, lie, sleep, and keep warm and dry in public property in most circumstances. I am concerned about having more public property on Main Street because I've worked with the city of Dallas and know how hard they are working to try to attract business and industry into our community. So I know there are probably other options to look at. And I would be more than happy to work with the county on finding those options.
Thank you. Edith. Anyone else? Okay, so at this time, we're going to close the public comment. Thank you for those addressing, and your comments will be heard. They are heard. We've all been here. If you guys have any closing comments whatsoever? No. Well, thank you all for coming today. Next up is non-listed items. Not on this agenda.
None for me, sir.
None for me.
Okay. With that, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.